Peace. Welcome back to the Voices of Reason show. I'm your host, Skilo Slim, and today we got a very dynamic community leader in the building, my brother, Mr. Leo Lewis. Sir.
How you doing?
Thank you, man. I'm doing good, man. Glad you could join us today, man.
Likewise,
It's a little rainy outside, you know, and you still was here, you know what I mean?
Course,
I appreciate that, man. So why don't you go ahead and make a little introduction, man, for people who don't know who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Leo Lewis, human, first and foremost. I represent dignity, honor, respect, and core values that I believe we're losing. I think that the black diaspora, the people who consider themselves black people in America, need to understand that another group of people have unified under the banner of being other. We can unify under the banner of being black.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for black people to identify and assert their culture and exist within the culture. So I'm an advocate for that. I'm also an advocate for human beings, but I think that insecurity rules the nation right now, and we have to get rid of those insecurities so that we can become a unified people as a human family. But in order to do that, we have to identify. Once we identify, we must accept ourselves, and then we can move forward to become a full human family.
Indeed. I agree with that. That's key right there.
Yeah.
That's key, because that's how I always see it, you know what I'm saying? One human family, and you just get those people that want to take advantage of the poor working class people. So you stick these dividers in there.
Of course.
Just walk away, hide your hand. People so busy arguing over the fence, they never realize, like, hey, wait a minute, who built this fence? You know, that's why I always admire the work that you do, like, because to me, that's like exactly how I see it as we're supposed to take the lead. You know what I'm saying? And get out to get stuff done.
I agree.
You know? So what's your role in what exactly do you do?
I don't know, for different people, I'm a different person. You know, for my mom, I'm the son that has to go do X, Y, and Z.
I know all about
For my
that.
lady, I'm the man that has to protect and take care of things when she can't do things. For my constituents in the community, I'm just somebody to build with, have dialogue with. For the community in general, my hope is to just inspire, to be an example of what our greatness is and what we can do.
No doubt. So that was your thinking when you did that community garden stuff?
The community garden has so many layers to my heart because I have a background in gang intervention and prevention. So doing gang intervention and prevention, me and my brothers, we used to have a meeting every Sunday. And we've had this meeting for 7 years. We had this meeting every single Sunday. And we go get all the folks that we knew were on the streets. And folks on the streets, we were trying to figure out our way. Part of that was finding employment. We couldn't find employment, so we figured we'd grow our own food. So we had this conversation about growing our own food. I said, I'll take the lead on it, I'll learn it, and I'll bring it back to the group. So I started going through the process, and in that process, I found out how spiritual and how life-giving gardening actually is. So I thought, you know what? If a person can take a life, then they wouldn't want to if they've been spending more time giving life. So I wanted to bring brothers from the streets to the garden so they can learn how to cultivate not only food, but cultivate their spirit too. And from there, I got picked up by nonprofit organizations and started building gardens all over North Omaha. I built over 12 gardens, one in which is 48th and Sailor. So you see another garden on 48th and Sailor that looks like all these bricks. Yeah, that was a garden that I built. I was the first black employee of North Star before North Star built this complex. So we built that garden up there. Not just me, but I coordinated it. Had a lot of community members come out, a lot of volunteers, and then I wanted to do the same thing for the Malcolm X Foundation in the future. Time never lined up until last year, and when things lined up, we were able to get it done. And what I really wanted to focus on was showing the black community that we can build something. Just as monumental as pyramids in our own backyard, if we just put our minds to it and put our hearts to it, and as a community come together and make it happen. So that was my inspiration for the Shabazz Community Garden at the Malcolm X Center.
Definitely, and man, that's a dope idea as well, because we've had that idea before, and and it's just a few of us like, okay, we're gonna just go right across the street and do this community garden, and it's like the people in the community started to engage. You know, the problem that we had was the land that we agreed to use. The person like halfway through they changed their mind. But like that principle that you're talking about, like you see in cats that's like, like walking past, I'm like, I know this dude got a gun. And he like, man, what y'all doing?
Right.
Y'all doing a garden? How much, y'all not getting paid?
Right.
All right, I'm gonna help y'all. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like piquing
Yeah.
that interest. So it's like, I definitely agree because like, when you plant a tomato plant, like a seed, and when you start seeing how many tomatoes actually come
off of that one
like,
seed.
wow, like it make you think like we really could feed our whole community.
Oh yeah. Oh
with,
yeah.
like you said, 12 gardens. Like,
oh yeah.
Nobody has to be necessarily hungry. You can eat other things as well. But,
right.
You know, you can have the basics.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was a dope thing, man. I've never been a part of nothing like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out too. But we're gonna do it again this season. So we're working on all of those things, putting the pieces together this season to build another garden, just like we built the first one. So we have our circular style, but this one's gonna be an X. It's designed by one of our gardeners. Her name is Jasmine. So she came up with this new design and we're gonna build that this year.
Yeah, that's dope. And then it's like everybody just gets plots, right?
Yep, we give the plots to the community. So right now the goal is to talk to community members, see if they wanna come back, give them back their old plot if they want that plot. If new members wanna come on, we'll have new space for them so they can come grow their own food too. We'll teach them, train them, give them the seeds, everything they need to get started.
That's dope right there, man. That's dope. I commend you on that, definitely. Because you know, it's rare that you see people that's doing things that's like selfless. You know what I'm saying? Like you could spend your time like a lot of people like, you know what? I need to get some more money. You know what I'm saying? I got these other agendas. But to do something that's like everybody benefit from,
right?
That's like something that got to be commended, you know?
Yeah, I had a brother who I was working with a couple months ago, and he said something that was profound that speaks to the point that you're talking about. So we doing this project, and he said he was doing one part of the project, and I said, man, I don't think I want to learn that project. He said, no, brother, you're going to learn everything I learned.
Right. He
said, because if we on the battlefield, I'm going to need to know that you can do everything I can do.
Right.
So if I'm gone, you can pick up where I left off. Right. And that really resonated with me because that's how we should be. If I can garden, then I should be teaching you how to garden, and we should be teaching everybody else.
Right.
Whatever skills I have, I should be giving it freely because those skills need to be duplicated if I'm not here to do it.
Right.
And that's what community is all about. You can go into a community that's fragmented, but if a community that's not fragmented has all of the people trained in the same thing, then you can take one person out of that community and they'll be an example in another community because they'll know they came from a tribe of people that were all about excellence. Right. And that's what I'm about. Let's all get together, let's all grow, let's all shine because there's enough for all of us.
Right, right. And I love that principle. That's the same way that I feel. Like everything I learn, I teach to somebody else. You know, it's like that principle, like each one teach 10 type of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like I'm gonna give my skills to you, like you said. So in my absence, nothing has to stop moving.
That's right.
You know, right. Like, and that's the way I like it to be because, I mean, it's multiple. It's like a multiple front thing. It's like a lot of things that we need to be doing to get our house in order. You know what I'm saying? And that, like, to me, that's what I always strive to do, is to try to give just that other thought. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like a lot of times when you get people in a group, it's hard for like, I mean, it's like a natural pecking order,
right?
To me, and it's like sometimes those voices that maybe feel like they at the bottom, they don't get heard as much. You know what I'm saying? But with the principle that you're talking about, it's like even.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like no one is down here because it's like, oh, I know how to do this, but I never taught you, so like you're always my second.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like, you know, I don't like that idea. So what else do you like? What else are you passionate about?
I mean, that's my life right now. Is just
because I see you at the Malcolm X Center all the time.
Yeah.
So like
the Malcolm X Center, the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation in general gives me the ability to display leadership. It allows me the freedom to really take a project and build on that project. I never really planned on being a board member at the Malcolm X Foundation. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to build them a garden and then go on about what I thought was my life mission, which is just kind of uplift black folks.
Right.
But finding out that the Malcolm X Foundation itself, the people that are involved in that organization are really about building from a grassroots level. And they encourage that. So it really gave me a platform to continue to do things on behalf of our people. So when Trayvon Martin was shot, when Ezell Ford was shot, when Sandra Bland went through what she went through, and all these other people historically who have been either murdered, assaulted, or mistreated by the system had their day, I was able to speak on behalf of those people locally and host rallies and forums. When people were shot locally, when the community was crying, I was able to host town hall meetings, and the Malcolm X Foundation gave me the leeway to do those types of things. So that really is what kept me around the Malcolm X Foundation. And also being able to move our meetings that we were having, that I said, we'd have those every Sunday at the Malcolm X Foundation. So we'd always get all types of people that would come in. And when I was building the garden with them in 2010, I was able to build a relationship with them because I helped fundraise for the building to get purchased. Now, I didn't raise all the funds at all. I wasn't the best fundraiser in the world, but I was able to do something to show them that I'm dedicated to helping the organization grow. And so from there, I just continued to build a relationship. But right now, I'm a board member there. I just finished in the capacity of a community organizer, which is a grant that we have for last year. And this year, I'm just continuing to do community organizing. It's something that I love. It's something that I want to continue to do.
Right.
So that's what I do now.
See, that's a beautiful thing, because until I met you, I never knew who ran that center. Like, I know Mr. Marshall, and I would help him do, like, cut the grass, because I know him since I was a little kid. My big brother used to take me to his bookstore. Like, you know, clean up everything, you can come up here and get a book, you know. So I've been knowing him since I was, you know, small. So when I went in there one day, and he was just like, you know, I need some volunteers with the grass cutting and all of that. So I would do that in the summer when I could. But I never knew, like, exactly I didn't even know what happened in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know how accessible it was until, like, I met you. And then it was like, every time that I've talked to you, it's been like, let's do it, whatever you want to do.
Open door, always an open door, especially for people in the community that want to do something that builds community. When you do something constructive, come to the foundation, we'll open the door for you and make sure that it can happen.
Right. And that's part of the reason that I wanted you to come, too, so that people will know that. Because I feel like, I don't know if a lot of people were like me, and it's like they just don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I don't know. Like, I know it's there, but can I just go up there?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
right. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have about the Malcolm X Foundation is Malcolm X's legacy itself. Malcolm X was not a violent man. Right. I like to explain to people like this. When you think of Martin Luther King, you think of Malcolm X, you think nonviolent and you think violent, that's because that's what you were told. Your critical thinking factors were not turned on when you were taught that. You were a very young child and you were educated throughout the system without the component of critical thinking.
Right.
So then, when you actually go into critical thinking, think about it. Me and you finna go out for a march. We decide we want to get involved in the civil rights movement. I want to go with Martin. You want to go with Malcolm. Which protests are you more likely to experience violence at?
With Martin.
Exactly. So it just totally shatters your whole idea of what violence and nonviolence is. If you think violence is actually getting hit, getting bit, getting, whatever happens to you on a physical level that you didn't invite.
Right.
But then you go walk around with Malcolm and none of that happens to you. You sit in the audience quiet, you listen to this man's speech and you go home safe.
Right.
But you go march down the street in Selma and you're getting dog sicked on your water hoses and all this other thing. Which one is violent, which one is not? Right. Now, this is not to say Martin Luther King was a violent man. What this is to say is really rethink the idea of violence and nonviolence and understand that your critical thinking has been tampered with.
Right.
And somebody has not allowed you the real freedom to really look at a situation and analyze it properly without shoving down your throat that this is what you have to believe and this is what you have to believe. As a matter of fact, we're going to give a holiday to make sure that this is reinstilled in your subconscious, that this is the person you need to glorify. This is what you need to follow. Where in Omaha, Nebraska, even though the governor has written a letter on behalf of the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation back in the 80s, the city has actually declared May 19th Malcolm X Day, but it does not get recognized for folks who have replaced those previous offices and become new politicians. They don't talk about it. And even the Omaha Public School District doesn't really acknowledge Malcolm the way that it could in the city where he was born in. It just goes to show that there is a system that doesn't really want to encourage you to stand up and really make the true assertion that you will not experience violence, you will not tolerate violence happening to you or your people. Right. So when you do that, it's a little bit bold of a stance, and it tells the system that you won't just lay down and stay down when something happens.
Right.
And so when people stand up, things change. And some people don't want things to change.
And see, and then that's the interesting part to me. That's always been the interesting thing about that argument, because it's like Malcolm X, Nation of Islam, was all about building something for ourselves and not depending on anyone else.
Right.
So when you hear Republican people these days, conservatives, one of their main things, they like to say that, it's people that are leeching off of society, you know, that we don't contribute anything, we don't do anything, we just want to take from the system and all it is. Like Malcolm's legacy erases all of that. Because it's saying, don't go to that bakery and beg for a job. Come here and get a job. Why are you standing on the corner drunk?
Right.
Clean yourself up. Come in here with us. You know, so you would think that that would be the narrative that they would get behind.
Right.
But it lets you know that true community empowerment, it lets you know who's using you.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it lets you know who's leeching off of you. Because if why don't you want me to have my own furniture store? Because you need me to come to your furniture store. You know.
I understand that perspective completely. You know, conservatives, when I talk to, not necessarily conservatives, but Republicans, let's say Republicans in general, who have the idea of pick yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of work and earn your own, they do agree with Malcolm's philosophy a lot of times. Now, they don't necessarily come support the Malcolm X Foundation, which they should. If you're a Republican watching this, you should. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they do agree with Malcolm's philosophy. A lot of people don't realize that Malcolm was studying politics before he passed away. There's a lot of pictures of Malcolm sitting at the Senate trying to understand what's going on in Congress, what's going on in the White House, and there's rumor that he was supposed to take the seat that Adam Clayton Powell took in history before he passed. So, I never heard that before. So Malcolm was getting real politically aware at the time of his passing. Right. So politically aware that he started the Organization of Afro-American Unity. That organization was a soft footprint to coming into the system and really establishing an organization for black people to come into. He understood the Nation of Islam had an organization, and now the Nation of Islam was supposed to do the final steps, which was become a nation. Occupy land, militarize, get resources, start trade, etc. You got to, if you really want to do it, you got to do it the right way. Right. And so the Nation of Islam wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, that next step.
He was trying to push them to that step, but you know.
Yeah, that's how that's how it is. Like that's why I prefer to be like my independent person. I don't really align with groups or anything, because when I feel like something is wrong, I can stop. I can say, hey, wait, that doesn't fit the way I live my life. Like that's not righteousness for me. When you're in a group, it's like you gotta fall in line. You know, a lot of times it's like you don't get that free thought. It's like, this is what our group represents. This is what we about. So you find yourself outside of the group if you disagree with our core principle, you know? Right. And it's like, that causes problems. So for me, it's always been easier. Like, you know, like I don't necessarily mentor for a company or for a mentoring group. But it's like plenty of people that I've helped to get away from gangs, to stop, to get out of the streets, you know what I mean? Like on all levels to try to help them, you know, but I don't do it through a group because it's like, they might not agree with what I'm saying or my tactic of how I'm trying to help you. Right. You know, so that's just always been my thing, like to try to, you know, be independent. You know, I'm an independent thinker. You know what I'm saying?
I think that there's some place for organization. There's definitely place for groups. And I think that people who do join groups, if you do it right, people can still be autonomous, but stick to a principle of that group or stick to a group of principles within that group. I think that there's nothing wrong with joining groups or staying involved in groups, but I do think you do have to remain independent in your thinking, and if your group is going the wrong way, you know, step away from that group. Now, the group has to have values in the way of saying, we're not gonna call you a traitor because you don't agree with this one thing. You can just be like, okay, well, you sit this one out, we're gonna go do this. But even then, people, unfortunately, in this society, tend to just be so ego-driven that if you associate with a group, then suddenly you are a representation of that group. Every single person is a representation of that group, and that's not fair, because at the end of the day, you're still your own person, you're still your own man, and you made your own decision, whether that be to be a part of that group or to not be a part of the group or to step away from the group. You're still your own independent person. Right,
and that's key. That's the key for me, because I'm not into, like, that's one thing that I don't like at all. It's like what you just said, like, since I associate with these people, you know, that makes me this. Right. Because I've seen so many times that's been proven wrong, you know what I'm saying? Like groups that I associate with now, you know, it's like, okay, they're viewed as a criminal organization and within prisons. So that's like, you can't have the literature, you can't have contact with each other, you can't do all of these things when it's like, I have never been encouraged to do criminal activity. In 10 years, of dealing and being around, if anything, people have been like, what is you doing? You know what I'm saying? When I first started to come around, and it's like, I'm like, halfway in, halfway out. Like I want to be right. I know that I'm wrong, but I got all these other issues. And I'm trying to figure it all out. Like those people are the ones who helped me to be like, hey, work is righteous, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I understand you got bills, but when you do righteousness, righteousness comes back. And that's not a principle that I was taught like that. It was like, hey, you a man, see that little dude who look like you, he's dependent on you.
Right.
So what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? You have to go do something. Instead of, hey, it's cool, my older brothers would be like, hey, you go and get that job. Like I'm ashamed. They're like, what you been doing, man? I'm ashamed, man. I have been working at McDonald's. What you ashamed for? You know what I'm saying? That's good. Work is righteous. Like those principles.
Right.
So it's like I see that stigma comes, and people get labeled things that they're not.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I stay away. But then at the same time, like you got to call spade a spade too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But is there anything that you would want anybody to know before we get out of here? Because time go quick, man.
Oh, it do?
Yeah, we got like about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, no, there's just so much that needs to be unpacked. We could be here for a very long time, very long time. But I guess I would say that it's important for us in this day and age, right now, to pay close attention to what's happening. This is a shift in time, and it's a very big shift for Black people. You need to study history. If you're a Black person in America, you need to study history, and don't spend all day studying just Black history. Study history in general, and we need to understand where we fit in history. One of the messages that I tell people whenever I get to talking to them, no matter that's students, family members, people on the street, whoever, know who you are and where you are in time and in space and in order of society. Know who you are and where you are. If you're a student and you receive a grant and a scholarship for your 4 years of school, know what you are to that system. Right. Know what you are to the foundation that gave you the money for that scholarship. What are you to them? What are you to the institution that's educating you for 4 years? What are you to the job that you're going to get after you get out of here? Same thing. If you a dude on the street and you a foot soldier in the gang, know who you are to the OG. Are you the person that makes him a lot of money? Are you the person that's going to put in work and go do 20 years in jail and he going to run around here scot-free? Are you the person that's going to ride for all your homies and you the person that your family depends on to go out and get that bread and come home? Who are you within the system? You must know who you are in the system. That's one of the biggest messages of this lifetime, because we're being used half the time for things that we don't even know we're being used for. Right. And a lot of things we think we're doing, we're not even doing anything. Right. We're actually just a placeholder for someone else to come along and fill that void once we're used up. But if you don't know who you are in time and space, you're not even going to realize it. And then you're going to say, why is this happening to me? But if you know who you are and where you are, you can position yourself almost anywhere on the chessboard. So if you're a pawn, know you're a pawn. Right. If you're a queen, know you're a queen. If you're a king, know you're a king. And don't get in your ego thinking that you're something that you're not. Because as soon as you get knocked off, then you'll be wondering what you were the whole time. Right. Or somebody else knew it the whole time. Right. I think that's one of the most important messages of this day. And I tell it to people whenever I get a chance to sit down and get an intimate conversation going. Because if you don't know who you are, literally, and this is where knowledge itself really matters. If you don't know who you are, then you're being used. Yeah. And we all want to be used. We just want to know we're being used. Right.
Right. You said it too, man. That's the key, man. Knowledge itself, man. I tell a lot of young brothers that, like, they start looking for knowledge itself outside. And it's like, that's the exact opposite. Knowledge starts with yourself. Am I a procrastinator? You know what I'm saying? Am I mean to people? Do I mistreat people? That's knowledge of self. Because once I know those things, if I know that I got a habit of procrastinating, I say, hey, that's one of my main problems. Or if I don't know I can't really read that good. I can't write that well. I know where I need to start. You know what I mean? It's cool to know about the 17th dynasty, ancient Kemet, and all that. But if you can't fill out a job application, or if you can't, provide a legal living for yourself, I mean, it doesn't really matter what happened in ancient China or anywhere else. That's what I mean? Like, that's right. So, where can people reach you or get involved with the community garden or however much you want people to know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, my phone number is public for the most part. It's not in the phone book. I mean, everybody got cell phones. I don't think nobody put numbers in the phone book no more. No. But people can call me, 402-706-9370. You can find me at the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation Visitor Center at 3448 Evans Street. That's just 2 blocks west of Time Out Chicken. So if you're going to get some chicken, you can come up the street and come see me. That's where I'm at. I'm also involved in the community, so you'll catch me at a community forum, a talk, a meeting. You'll see me anywhere at any time. I'm around, so I'm not hard to reach. You can find me on the book, Leo Lewis II on Facebook. You know, I might be on there sometimes I'm not. I'm really not a big Facebook person. I only use Facebook on the computer. I don't be on my phone all day on it like that.
Yeah.
So
see, that's the way to do it.
if I'm posting, and then I'm out.
Yeah,
you know,
and you got to check out like your talks. I see when you were on that forum thing about that movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a while ago.
Okay, yeah.
And I enjoy seeing you up there, man.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You one of those people I like. If I had my say, like I would push you more to the forefront. You know, because your ideas, the way that you make it simple, is like I'm proud of the work that you do, and I'm glad that you came here today with us.
Oh, yes, sir.
Anything that I can ever do to assist you, you know what I'm saying, I'm there, man.
Appreciate
Always.
that.
So,
yes, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming.
Likewise. Thank you.
So with that, you know, we've come to the end again. Reach out, go up to the Malcolm X Memorial Center, you know, and get involved, you know what I'm saying, because that's something that we can all do. It's easy. So with that, I'm going to say peace, and we'll see y'all next time.